The 1994 FIFA World Cup was the 15th FIFA World Cup, held in 9 cities across the United States from the 17th of June to the 17th of July 1994. The United States was chosen as the host by FIFA on the 4th of July 1988. Despite the host nation's lack of a national top-level soccer league, the tournament broke the World Cup average attendance record with nearly 69,000 spectators per game, a mark that still stands today. The total attendance of nearly 3.6 million for the final tournament remains the highest in World Cup history. Despite the expansion of the competition from 24 to 32 teams in the 1998 World Cup, Brazil beat Italy 3-2 in a penalty shootout after the game ended 0-0 after extra time, the first World Cup final to be decided on penalties. This made Brazil the first nation to win 4 World Cup titles. At the 1994 World Cup, Greece, Nigeria and Saudi Arabia made the first appearances in the finals, with Norway making its first appearance since 1938, and Bolivia since 1950. Bulgaria, Morocco and Mexico returned after missing the 1990 tournament qualification. Greece, Nigeria, and Saudi Arabia qualified for the World Cup finals for the first time. Russia, competing independently for the first time after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, also qualified. The defending champions West Germany were united with their East German counterparts, representing the unified Germany for the first time since the 1938 World Cup. As a result of the strong performances by African teams in 1990, Africa was given 3 spots for the first time, with Nigeria joining Cameroon and Morocco. Norway qualified for the first time since 1938, Bolivia for the first time since 1950, and Switzerland for the first time since 1966. The qualification campaigns of both Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia were affected by political events. The nation of Czechoslovakia dissolved in 1992, and the team completed its qualifying group under the name Representation of Czechs and Slovaks, but failed to qualify for the finals. Yugoslavia was suspended from international competition in 1992 as part of United Nations sanctions against the country as a result of the Yugoslav wars. The sanctions were not lifted until 1994, by which time it was no longer possible for the team to qualify. Chile's suspension from the 1990 FIFA World Cup following the forced interruption of the qualification game against Brazil extended to the 1994 qualifiers as well. Japan failed to qualify after the agony of Doha against Iraq, losing out to Saudi Arabia and South Korea. Among other teams who failed to qualify were Uruguay and England, the latter being semi-finalists and finishing in 4th place in 1990. Denmark, Portugal, Hungary, and France failed to qualify for the second successive tournament, while Scotland failed to qualify for the first time since 1970. This was the only World Cup finals since 1938 for which neither England nor Scotland qualified. The Republic of Ireland qualified for a second successive World Cup finals tournament. As of 2016, this was the last time that Bolivia qualified for a FIFA World Cup finals. Summary: 3 nations bid for host duties: United States, Brazil and Morocco. The vote was held in Zurich on the 4th of July 1988, and only took 1 round, with the United States bid receiving a little over half of the votes by the EXCO members. FIFA hoped that by staging the world's most prestigious tournament there, it would lead to a growth of interest in the sport. One condition FIFA imposed was the creation of a professional soccer league. Major League Soccer was founded in 1990 1993 and began operating in 1996. There was some initial controversy about awarding the World Cup to a country where soccer was not a nationally popular sport, and at the time, in 1988, the U.S. did not have a professional league of its own anymore. The North American Soccer League, set up in the 1970s, had folded in 1984 after fading attendance figures. Despite the controversy, the U.S. staged a hugely successful tournament, with average attendance of nearly 69,000, breaking a record that surpassed the 1966 FIFA World Cup average attendance of 51,000. Thanks to the large seating capacities the stadiums in the United States provided for the spectators in comparison to the smaller venues of Europe and Latin America. To this day, the total attendance for the final tournament of nearly 3.6 million remains the highest in World Cup history. Despite the expansion of the competition from 24 to 32 teams at the 1998 World Cup in France, Germany, Brazil, Argentina, Belgium, Italy and the United States were seeded for the final draw that took place in Las Vegas, Nevada, on the 19th of December 1993. The format of the competition stayed the same as in the 1990 World Cup. 24 teams qualified, divided into 6 groups of 4. 16 teams would qualify for the knockout phase, the 6 group winners, the 6 group runners-up, and the 4 third-place teams with the best records. This was the last time this format was used, due to the expansion of the finals tournament in 1998 to 32 teams. This World Cup was the first in which 3 points were awarded for a win instead of 2. FIFA instituted this feature to encourage attacking soccer after the defensive display of many teams at Italia '90. The tournament saw the end of Diego Maradona's World Cup career, having played in the 1982, the 1986 where he led Argentina to the World Cup title, and the 1990 World Cups, where he led them to the final. Maradona was expelled from the tournament after he failed a drug test which uncovered ephedrine, a weight-loss drug, in his blood. Colombia, despite high expectations due to the style and impressive qualifying campaign, failed to advance from the round-robin. The team was supposedly dogged by influence from betting syndicates and drug cartels, with coach Francisco Macherano receiving death threats over squad selection. Defender Andrés Escobar was a tragic figure of this tournament, as in the group stage game against the United States, he scored an own goal that eliminated his team. Escobar was shot to death outside a bar in a Medellin suburb only 10 days later, apparently in retaliation for the own goal. On the field, Bulgaria was one of the biggest surprises of the tournament. The Bulgarians had never won a game in 5 previous World Cup finals, but, led by Hristo Stoichkov, who eventually shared the tournament lead in scoring, they made a surprising run. Bulgaria won 2 of the 3 group games to qualify for the second round, where they advanced with a 3-1 penalty shootout win over Mexico. Bulgaria then faced the reigning world champions, Germany, in the quarter-finals, where goals from Stoichkov and Jordan Lechkov gave them a 2-1 victory. Bulgaria went on to finish in 4th place after losing to Italy and Sweden in the semi-finals and 3rd place game, respectively. The United States, relatively new to the game of soccer, advanced to the second round as one of the best 3rd place teams. They played Brazil and, despite a 1-0 defeat, the United States' performance was considered a great success in the soccer history. Brazil's win over the hosts helped take them to the final against Italy, while Brazil's path was relatively smooth as they defeated the Netherlands in the quarter-finals and Sweden in the semis. The Italians had made hard work of reaching the final. During the group stage, Italy struggled and narrowly advanced to the next round, despite losing 1-0 to the Republic of Ireland. Italian playmaker Roberto Baggio, who was expected to be one of the stars of the tournament, had not yet scored a goal. During the round of 16 game against Nigeria, Italy was trailing 1-0 in the dying minutes when Baggio scored the tying goal, forcing the game into extra time. He scored again with a penalty kick to send Italy through. Baggio carried the Italians from there, scoring the game-winning goal in the quarter-final against Spain, and both goals in Italy's semi-final victory over Bulgaria. The third-place playoff was set between Bulgaria and Sweden, the team which scored more goals than any other in this World Cup. These teams had also previously met in the qualifying group. Sweden won 4-0. Swedish forward Thomas Brolin was named to the All-Star team. The final game at the Rose Bowl was tense, but devoid of scoring chances. It was the second time in 24 years that the two nations had met in a final. Despite the strategies implemented by FIFA to promote offensive play, both teams failed to produce a goal. After 120 goalless minutes, the World Cup was decided for the first time by a penalty shootout. After 4 rounds, Brazil led 3-2, and Baggio, playing injured, had to score to keep Italy's hopes alive. He missed by shooting it over the crossbar, and the Brazilians were crowned champions for the 4th time. After the game ended, then Vice President Al Gore hosted the awarding ceremony by handing Brazilian captain Dunga the prestigious trophy. The Brazilian national team dedicated the title to the deceased Formula One champion and countryman Ayrton Senna, who had died 2.5 months prior. The tournament's Golden Boot went jointly to Bulgaria's Stoichkov and Oleg Salenko of Russia, the latter becoming the first player to score 5 goals in a game, coming in a 6-1 victory against Cameroon. Both players scored 6 goals in the tournament. Brazilian striker Romario, with 5 goals, won the Golden Ball as the tournament's best player. Mascot. The official mascot of this World Cup was Striker. The World Cup pup, a dog wearing a red, white and blue soccer uniform with a soccer ball. Striker was designed by the Warner Brothers animation team. A dog was picked as the mascot because dogs are a common pet in the United States. Venues. The games were played in 9 cities across the country. All stadiums had a capacity of at least 53,000, and the usual tenants were professional or college American football teams. The venue used most was the Rose Bowl in Pasadena near Los Angeles, with 8 games, among them the final, the third-place game, a semi-final and 1 game in the round of 16. The least used was the Pontiac Silverdome near Detroit, the first indoor stadium used in a World Cup, with 4 round-1 games. The Pontiac Silverdome was also the only venue of the 9 used that did not host any knockout round matches. Because of the massive land size of the main 48 states of the United States, the match locations were often far apart, making traveling long and grueling for teams and the traveling fans. Some teams in Groups A and B had to travel from Los Angeles or San Francisco all the way to Detroit and back again, covering 2,300 miles and 3 time zones one way. The teams in Groups C and D only played in Foxborough, Chicago and Dallas. A trip from Boston to Dallas is 2,000 miles, but only covers 1 time zone. Chicago is in the same time zone as Dallas but is still 1,000 miles away from both Dallas and Boston. The teams in Group C and F's travel was a bit easier year, they played exclusively in East Rutherford, New Jersey, Washington and Orlando. A few teams such as Cameroon and Italy did not have to travel great distances to cities to play matches. The variety of climate in different cities all over the United States made playing conditions very difficult. Aside from Boston, San Francisco and occasionally Chicago, most matches were played in very hot and/or humid conditions. Although playing in the dry heat of Los Angeles and the extreme humidity of Washington and New York proved to be difficult, the cities with the most oppressive conditions were the southern cities of Orlando and Dallas. The Floridian tropical climate of Orlando meant all matches that were played in temperatures of 95 degrees Fahrenheit or above, with humidity at 90% or more, thanks to the midday start times. Dallas was not much different. In the semi-arid heat of a Texas summer, temperatures exceeded 100 degrees Fahrenheit during midday. When matches that were staged in the open-type Cotton Bowl meant that conditions were just as oppressive there as they were in Orlando. Detroit also proved to be difficult. The Pontiac Silverdome did not have a working cooling system, and because it was an interior dome-shaped stadium, the air could not escape through circulation, so temperatures inside the stadium would climb past 90 degrees Fahrenheit with 90% humidity. United States midfielder Thomas Dooley described the Silverdome as the worst place I have ever played at. Media and broadcasting. Los Angeles and Dallas served as the primary international broadcast centers. Referees, squads, teams were selected as usual following FIFA rules with 22 players. Greece, Italy, Saudi Arabia and Spain were the only countries who had all the players coming from domestic teams, while the Republic of Ireland and Nigeria had no players from domestic teams. Saudi Arabia were the only team with no players from European teams. Seeding and draw. The composition of the four pots was based on the FIFA World Ranking and on the qualified teams' results in the three previous World Cups. The teams' pre-tournament rankings are shown in parentheses. The draw for the tournament took place at the Las Vegas Convention Center on the 19th of December 1993, officiated by General Secretary Sepp Blatter. Teams were drawn by German legend Franz Beckenbauer, heavyweight boxing champion Evander Holyfield, and comedian and actor Robin Williams. Numbers for placement in the group were drawn by actor Beau Bridges, Women's World Cup champion Michelle Akers, model Carol Alt, artist Peter Max, racing driver Mario Andretti and Olympic gold medalist Mary Lou Retton. Opening ceremony. The opening ceremony of the World Cup was held on the 17th of June at Chicago's Soldier Field. Numerous dignitaries attended, including United States President Bill Clinton, Chancellor of Germany Helmut Kohl, and President of Bolivia Gonzalo Sanchez de Lozada. The ceremony was emceed by Oprah Winfrey, who fell off the dais in introducing Diana Ross, who gave a musical performance. Ross was also supposed to kick a soccer ball into the goal from the penalty spot at the beginning of her performance, with the goal then splitting in two as part of a pre-orchestrated stunt. She kicked the ball wide to the left, missing the goal, but the goalposts were collapsed anyway in accordance with the stunt plans. In addition, Daryl Hall and John Secada also gave musical performances. Results. Group stage. All times are Eastern Daylight Time in the following tables: PLD equals total games played, W equals total games won, D equals total games drawn, L equals total games lost, GF equals total goals scored, GA equals total goals conceded, GD equals goal difference, PTS equals total points accumulated. Group A. The Group A game between the United States and Switzerland was the first ever to take place indoors, played under the roof at the Pontiac Silverdome. Following the tournament, Colombian defender Andres Escobar was shot dead on his return to Colombia, after his own goal had contributed to his country's elimination. Victories against Colombia and the United States were enough to see Romania through as group winners, despite a 4-1 hammering by Switzerland in between. The magnitude of that victory allowed Switzerland to move ahead of the United States on goal difference. Although the hosts qualified for the second round as one of the best third-place teams, Switzerland's 4-1 victory over Romania came nearly 40 years to the date of Switzerland's last World Cup victory, which was the 23rd of June 1954, and that was also a 4-1 victory on that occasion over Italy. The United States' 2-1 victory over Colombia was its first World Cup victory since the 29th of June 1950, when it upset England 1-0 in the 1950 World Cup. Group B. Group B produced 2 of the 4 semi-finalists of this World Cup, and was also one of the 2 groups in which 2, rather than 3, sides would progress to the second round. Brazil and Sweden proved to be far stronger than Cameroon and Russia in every department. The game between the latter two broke 2 World Cup records. Oleg Salenko of Russia became the first, and remains the only, man ever to score 5 goals in a single World Cup game, as Russia ran out 6-1 winners against their African opponents. The goals also ensured that Salenko finished the tournament joint top scorer with 6 goals, having previously bagged 1 against Sweden. Cameroon left to mark 2 as Roger Milla, at the age of 42, became the oldest World Cup goal scorer of all time as he grabbed his side's consolation goal in the game. The result was not enough to take Russia through, following heavy defeats at the hands of both Brazil and Sweden. Brazil overcame Cameroon with similar ease before a draw with Sweden confirmed top spot. The Swedes also progressed, finishing in second place with 5 points. Sweden's 3-1 victory over Russia was the nation's first World Cup victory since the 3rd of July 1974. Group C. As was the case with Group B, Group C would only send 2 teams into the round of 16 as Spain and defending champions Germany progressed to round 2, coming from 2 goals down with 4 minutes left to snatch a 2-2 draw against Spain. The South Koreans very nearly eclipsed that feat against Germany when they came from 3-0 down to lose narrowly 3-2. In spite of these comebacks, South Korea was held to a 0-0 draw against Bolivia in their other group game, when a win would have seen them through. Spain's late implosion against the South Koreans effectively decided that it would be Germany who won the group and not them. Germany, who defeated Bolivia 1-0 in the tournament's opening game, finished with 7 points. Spain had to settle for second place despite leading in all 3 games. Bolivia did make history in the World Cup as Erwin Sanchez scored the nation's first ever World Cup goal after not scoring at both the 1930 and 1950 World Cups. Group D. Argentina collected a maximum of 6 points from their opening 2 games after beating Greece 4-0 in Foxborough before coming from behind to overcome the feisty Nigerians 2-1 on the same field 4 days later, yet still only finished third. The game against Greece had been won in style thanks mainly to a hat-trick from Gabriel Batistuta, yet it was the other goal in the game, from Diego Maradona, that hit the headlines. Nigeria had been very impressive on the World Cup debut, and despite the narrow loss to Argentina, had emerged as group winners following victories against Bulgaria and Greece, the latter in which Nigeria doubled its lead late on a goal from Daniel Amokachi, a goal that would allow Nigeria to top its group. Maradona only played with Argentina during the first two games, both in Foxborough. He was thrown out of the tournament after testing positive for ephedrine, having qualified for the tournament through a last-gasp goal against France. Bulgaria surprised many people, as the nation had never even won a game at the World Cup finals prior to this tournament. Despite losing its opening game 3-0 to Nigeria, Bulgaria came back in style with a 4-0 win over Greece, and a win against Argentina had seen them advance. Argentina had actually been winning the group going into injury time, while Bulgaria played the last 25 minutes with 10 men. However, a 91st-minute header from Nasko Sarakov meant that Argentina dropped 2 places and finished third. Nigeria won the group on goal difference. Bulgaria's victory over Argentina earned them second place. Group E remains the only group in World Cup history in which all 4 teams finish with the same points. It began when Ray Houghton's chip ensured that Ireland would gain revenge on Italy by reversing a 1-0 scoreline the Italians had beaten them by in the quarter-finals of the previous World Cup. The next day in Washington, Norway played its first World Cup game since 1938, and Kjetil Rekdal's goal 5 minutes from time proved decisive in an equally tense encounter as Norway beat Mexico. Mexico, however, was much more comfortable playing in Orlando, the setting for the next game against Ireland, where the heat and humidity proved to be a key factor. Garcia's double had them 2-0 up and in control of the game before a disagreement on the touchline resulted in fines for both Republic of Ireland's manager, Jack Charlton, and the striker John Aldridge. Fortunately for Ireland, Aldridge was able to regain concentration in time to score 6 minutes from the end of the game. Though Ireland still lost the game 2-1, Aldridge's goal proved crucial in the final group standings. The previous day in New Jersey, Italy's World Cup hopes seemed to be diminishing fast as goalkeeper Gianluca Pagliuca was sent off with the game still at 0-0. Yet despite this, Italy was still able to salvage an important 1-0 victory. Norway would ultimately pay a price for their inability to take advantage of Pagliuca's dismissal. With the 4 teams level on points, the final 2 group games would each have to finish as draws for things to stay that way. Republic of Ireland made it through after a dreary 0-0 draw with Norway midfield as Massaro and Bernal traded strikes as Italy and Mexico played a 1-1 draw. Those results meant that Mexico won the group on goals scored, with 3 in the group, with Ireland and Italy also progressing, having finished with identical records. Ireland finished ahead of Italy because of Ireland's victory over Italy. Norway's shortcomings in attack ultimately let them down, and they exited the tournament with only 1 goal. Group F. Just as happened to Argentina in Group D, Belgium endured the same fate in Group F. Despite winning its first 2 World Cup games 1-0 to Morocco in the Netherlands, Belgium finished third as, in an upset, it lost to tournament newcomers Saudi Arabia 1-0 in the third game. During that game, Saudi player Saad Al-Owairan ran from his own half through a maze of Belgian players to score the game's only goal. Saudi Arabia also advanced through to the round of 16 as well, having also defeated Morocco 2-1. The Netherlands endured a somewhat nervy experience. The opening 2-1 victory against Saudi Arabia was followed by the 1-0 loss against Belgium before another 2-1 victory against Morocco, with Brian Roy scoring the winner a mere 12 minutes from time. Saw the Dutch win the group because of having scored more goals against Belgium and Saudi Arabia. Morocco, despite losing all three of the group games, did not leave without a fight, as each of the losses were by just a single goal: 1-0 to Belgium, 2-1 to Saudi Arabia, and 2-1 to the Netherlands. Ranking of third-place teams, knockout stage round of 16 quarter-finals, semi-finals, third-place playoff final statistics. Goal scorers Risto Stoichkov and Oleg Salenko received the Golden Boot for scoring 6 goals. In total, 141 goals were scored by 81 different players, with only one of them credited as own goal. 3 goals, 2 goals, 1 goal, own goals. Andres Escobar. Awards. All-Star Team. The All-Star Team is a squad consisting of the 11 most impressive players at the 1994 World Cup as selected by FIFA's Technical Study Group. Final standings. After the tournament, FIFA published a ranking of all teams that competed in the 1994 World Cup finals based on progress in the competition, overall results and quality of the opposition.